Hey there friends, welcome back to another Legally Armed America video. I'm of course Paul Glasgow, the one and only original OG truth pimp here, serving you a vulgar display of logic and reason. Did you hear the most recent from Ilhan Omar, the Somali reject that married her brother in order to get him into the country illegally? Oh, sorry about that. I didn't realize that was the picture we were going to use. I guess I always thought she wore her little scarf around her head so she didn't get stoned to death from her own religious people, but apparently it has something to do with the looks too. But yeah, check this video out by Ilhan, and it may, I don't know, upset a couple people out there.
A lot of conservatives in particular would say that the rise in Islamophobia is a result not of hate, but of fear, a legitimate fear, they say, of quote-unquote jihadist terrorism, whether it's Fort Hood or San Bernardino or the recent truck attack in New York. What do you say to them?
I would say our country should be more fearful of white men across our country, because they are actually causing most of the deaths within this country. And so if fear was the driving force of policies to keep America safe, Americans safe inside of this country, we should be profiling, monitoring, and creating policies to fight the radicalization of white men.
Yo, radical white man. You notice how the term radical is hardly ever used with anyone, any particular group, whether it be race, ethnicity, religion, except one, radical Islam. That's right. That's kind of what she's running from, although she is a known racist and clearly does not like white men. But the guy asked about conservatives viewing radical Islam, and I don't know the exact words, I'm paraphrasing here, but he's talking about religion. He was talking about the radicalization of Islam, and he said conservatives. He never mentioned white men. She immediately answered saying that the real problem was white men.
A legitimate fear, they say, of quote-unquote jihadist terrorism.
Our country should be more fearful of white men across our country, because they are actually causing most of the deaths within this country.
I mean, her racism just came right through. Either she did not even answer the question because she doesn't want to address the question, or she immediately pivots to white men because she hates them so much she has to take every opportunity to blame white men. But again, she's a liar. I don't see why Democrats don't try to tell the truth some, so that whenever we say they're liars, they're at least partially right. Like they could point to a couple of things they say that are legitimate and truthful, and we'd go, well, a lot of what you say is a lie. But I think everything they say is a lie. Because when these people open up their mouths and say this, I've spoken on this before, and I think I said it in the video yesterday. They know who they're addressing. They know you and I know better. We immediately will research it if we don't already know where to go or what the answer is. The people they're talking to are the dummies, the ones that are too lazy out there, and the ones who will pull a lever depending on who you tell them to vote for. They mentioned to vote for Donald Trump. They could get Democrats to vote for Donald Trump, because these people are so stupid they will do whatever they are told to do because they're lazy and they're stupid. Now, you know me, I wanted to prove this idiot wrong. We don't stone our stupid women to death here in the United States like they do in Somalia, where her home country is, even if they're ugly like this hideous wildebeest. So I wanted to show you some actual facts. The most recent data I could pull regarding race, ethnicity, and murders was from the FBI's own website, and this goes back to 2019. I don't have anything more current than that, so I'm using 2019 data, but I'm going to use that 2019 data across the board, so I'm not going to take multiple years and, misdiagnose what I'm looking at here. So if you scroll down on this one page here, you're going to see one box right here that I want you to pay particular attention to. It's under race of offender, right? So we've got race of offenders that are white and race of offenders that are black or African American. Now, if I take those numbers and add up what you see there, I've got 2,948 white murderers. This is all under murder, right? I have 3,218 black murderers. Now, she said that white men were the problem and responsible for most of the death in the country. That is a provable lie. I'm literally showing you that right here. So as we can tell just by looking at this one slide, it's almost 300 people murdered. Difference between races murdering people, even though white men make up way more percentage of the country than black men do. And I'm not trying to make this about white or black. She made it about white or black. But I'm going to take this a step further because I want you guys to see how bad these people lie and how little research they will actually do. Look over here to the far right. Hispanic or Latino. You know what that means, right? That means that those same Hispanic or Latino people are counted separately over here under ethnicity, but they're only accounted for under race, under white people. So this entire line that we see right here of Hispanic or Latinos totals 874. Those numbers are built into the white column over here because, again, they don't have a special column for, quote, race regarding Hispanics or Latinos, so they dump them in with white people. So if I break these numbers down even further, homicide rates by race, ethnicity, white, 2,948, black, 3,218. Again, her numbers are already wrong even before I remove Hispanic. But white minus Hispanic, which is 874, drops that number all the way down to 2,074. Blacks minus Hispanic, 0. There were none of their numbers. Still remains 3,218. So it's almost a 1,200 murder count difference between the two races. But facts don't really matter to these people, right? Now, I've said this before. Sometimes they will interchange different sources of what they're talking about. Just like in the video yesterday, they'll use one data set when talking about another one because this one indirectly makes a certain point even though it's inaccurate, and if you put them together individually they might be what they're speaking of, but not whenever you take them into context. Well, I did the same thing here, thinking, well, maybe because she did talk about deaths, right? She did not say homicide. She did not say murder. She said deaths.
Our country should be more fearful of white men across our country because they are actually causing most of the deaths within this country.
I think that's her out. Remember I said in my video yesterday, I listen to every word that you say, and I know that you are carefully, especially politicians, carefully choosing every single word you use. So when you use a word that seems a little bit out of character from the context of the picture you're trying to paint, I have to think there's a reason for that. The fact that she was very careful to use the word deaths and not murder or homicide, which that's the things most of us would fear, right? I mean, I'm not saying it's okay for people to kill themselves, but a person hell-bent on killing themselves is not much danger to me, right? So I've thought to myself, what's the one area where white men might actually kill more people? Well, if you go out here and pull suicide rates, look at this. This was a little bit troubling to me. United States suicide rates, again, I used the year 2019, 37,428 white men killed themselves to only 3,115 black men killed themselves. So if I adjust my numbers to account for that, white men minus Hispanics, 874, plus suicides, that gives me 39,502 people killed at the hands of a white man. Because I'm going to go out on a limb here and assume that the white men who committed suicide killed themselves. So the white man in that case would have killed a white man. So that's who was responsible for it. Of course, when I add the black suicides in there, black minus Hispanics plus suicides, that brings the number only up to 6,333. So we do have a massive disparity of 39,000 to 6,000 if we're going to include suicides. Now, including suicides would be very disingenuous, right? Because again, like I stated, the people killing themselves are not known. People who kill themselves do not typically present a danger to other people whenever they're trying to off themselves. So while she might be using that number to try to make her case, see, I told you, oh, I didn't say it was murders or homicides. I just said responsible for deaths. Well, technically, she would be right. But we know she's using that number just to paint a picture that she's not willing to explain. See, she certainly did not explain it in that particular interview that she was in. She was just using a number to throw out there, again, thinking nobody will investigate this. Now, she's obviously a black person. Middle Africa to South Africa, other than the colonized South African where they're killing all the people, those were mostly black people. Where you're Northern Africa were mostly Middle Eastern descent. In fact, they have a name, Middle Eastern, Northern Africa, MENA is what they call it. To explain that chart that I showed you, the U.S. Census and most of your police records, most of your, 4473s to buy a firearm, they don't include MENA or Middle Eastern descent or Northern Africa. Again, they're not black and technically they're not white, but there's no box to put them in, so they dump them in with white people. You can see right here the U.S. Census Bureau classifies people from Middle East and Northern Africa as white under federal standards set by the Office of Management and Budget. This includes individuals from countries like Iran, Iraq, Syria, Lebanon, Egypt, and others in the region, which would be Somalia if they had any white people living in Somalia or in the Middle East. Unfortunately, they kill them all off or they run them out. The 2020 census did not have a separate MENA category, so people from these areas typically check white, or in some cases other. So any of Ilhan Omar's other radical Muslim friends who were not black but were rather North African or Middle Eastern, if they commit a murder in the United States, they would actually pad the numbers against white people and in favor of her little argument here. So her own friends committing murder in the United States would be captured under the old enemy, the old mean white man. So the real question and the real topic that interviewer was asking Ilhan Omar was not what race of people should we be most scared of in the United States. It was for her to explain why conservatives view radical Islamists as being such a danger. And she immediately pivoted because she knows the guy was right. There's a legitimate threat for that. You want me to show you? Let's look at her home country and show you why she's so intolerant of not just white men, but of Christians in general. If you go to Open Doors, Open Doors is a resource where you can find places around the globe and how they're ranked based on their violence against Christians. Somalia is ranked number 2 in the entire world behind violence against Christians. Look at that. Ranked number 2. By the way, North Korea, of all places, is ranked number 1. It's not because they're Islamic, it's because they don't allow any religion over there. But yeah, Somalia is number 2. So you can now start to picture where all this hate for Christians is, which a lot are white men, from this Ilhan Omar. She just inherently hates Christian people, and she makes that connection that Christian people, white men. So she hates them both equally. But she can't come out and say that Christians are a major threat in the United States because there's no way to quantify that, because there's not even like a measure of that would even come close to showing a blip on the radar screen of that. So she has to include white men or state white men in order to make that connection, because she hates white men and she hates Christians. Quick side note, under that number 2 ranking for Somalia for danger of Christians, it states, what does persecution look like in Somalia? Now this is for Christians. In Somalia, following Jesus is a matter of life and death. Al-Shabaab, a violent Islamist militant group, is at war with the government and controls large swaths of the country. This group enforces a strict form of Sharia, Islamic law, and is committed to eradicating Christianity from Somalia. They have often killed Somali Christians on the spot. The dangers have increased over the years as the militants have increasingly focused on finding and eliminating Christian leaders. Eliminating does not mean putting them in a room and saying, bad boy. Eliminating means getting rid of everything from here and above if you're a Christian. That's what eliminating means in Somalia. That's how you earn a number 2 ranking for dangers, physical dangers of life or death regarding Christians in the entire world. Now again, you guys, oh God, that picture gets me every time. That is a hideous creature right there. You guys have no doubt heard the, let's call them rumors, right? Allegations, if you will, if I'm going to be polite and nice here, because I'm a better person than this radical Islamist that hates white people. But the rumors were that she was already here in the United States, and she married her brother so that he could beat the immigration system to get into the United States. Now, that was her second husband. She's on husband number 3 or 4 right now. I think her current husband is actually a white man. What a wuss, right? She has a hatred for this country. If you don't know how Sharia law works, that's the law, the overwhelming ideological law that radical Muslims want for the entire world. And they're very patient. They're willing to wait hundreds and hundreds of years to implement Sharia law. The whole reason why these wackos come over here from Somalia, they hate America and they hate Christianity. But they came here because that's their long-term goal, is to take over this country from the inside. It's a humongous victory just that she's an elected official, because that puts her in a position to, let's just say, move the needle a little bit when it comes to being nice and more, I guess, open to these radical Islamists coming into the country from these radical countries like Somalia. So when she got pressed on that earlier this year by Juanita Broaddrick, you remember her, that was one of Bill Clinton's women. Broaddrick stated no post from Ilhan Omar or Ilhan since this was confirmed to be true. They were talking about the brother that she married to violate immigration laws in the United States to get him in here, which you know nothing will happen. She responded, "The only thing that is confirmed is your stupidity. Hope that helps." That's how the left is. When they have no argument, like they don't have an argument, they resort to personal attacks at somebody. If you had proof that you had not married your brother, as sickening as that sounds, I mean, doesn't that sound sick enough? I mean, nobody's accusing her of sleeping with her brother, but the fact that she married her brother to get him into the country illegally is sickening enough. Just the sound of it sounds really weird. I mean, I have 2 sisters, so it's just a weird thing to even say. But the fact that she will not defend herself, and the fact that she will not post proof that people are lying, I'm going to end this once and for all. This is my brother, that was my husband, they are not the same person, whatever, however you want to do it. You can easily prove that, right? Birth certificate, marriage certificate. Or it's the same person on there, right? It'd be easy to disprove. She doesn't do it because she's guilty of it. Friends, this hideous creature is the epitome of a wolf in sheep's clothing. I know that when Barack Obama was in office, there was a whole lot of a push to accept radical Islam. And I know they didn't say radical Islam, but the push was to even accept the radical side of Islam, even though that's the side who wants to kill all of us. If you ever do any research into that religion, it's fascinating how their book allows them, for instance, to lie to us. Like, nowhere in your Bible, I don't know what religion you guys are out there, but if you're a Christian, nowhere in the Bible that I'm aware of tells you you're not supposed to ever lie, because I know 10 Commandments includes that. But nowhere does it say, well, you can lie to Muslims if you're trying to get your way. Like if you're trying to steal their land, or if you're trying to get them to convert to Christianity, you can lie to them here. Nowhere that I'm aware of says these are the conditions that you can lie under. You think that exists in the Quran? It does. Guys, I appreciate you always hanging out with me. These kinds of things like this, whenever they spout these numbers that are incorrect, I just feel not even the need to. I feel like it's a mission of mine to call these people out and spread some truth out there, because I can't stand being lied to. Dishonesty is one of the lowest forms of anything that I see. Dishonesty, thievery, and abuse against children. Those are things that I can't seem to tolerate. I will distance myself from a person who is a liar, a thief, and obviously I don't know any of the others. So I think it's important whenever we see something like this, I feel obligated to call it out. And I'm happy to do it. It's interesting to me. I enjoy looking at numbers. But whenever these people openly lie like this, it's something I can't let go. And I'm going to continue to push on stuff like this. This broad, although ugly and disgusting looking, is also a liar. And I know liars come in all different shapes, sizes, religions, and colors.